This is very exciting. Ariel Heinicke is in Berkeley, California, and she represents an organization called Betta World for Bettas. I learned about your group, Ariel, in an article about better care for all kinds of particularly exotic pets. And I know that betta fish are sought after by people. And I thought, is something going wrong for bettas that I didn't know about? Is it because they're kept in those little like old-fashioned goldfish bowls all by themselves with no life? Is that what concerns you as a group?
Yeah, I would say they're very popular pets, right? So they're one of the most popular aquarium pets that people have, and they're also very misunderstood. There's a lot of misconceptions surrounding their care. So our pressure point, our focal point right now is the way that they're sold at these big box pet chains. So I'll show you, I know people who are listening can't see this, but I'm holding up a Petco and a PetSmart cup. These are about zero point 0.4 liters.
And they
So
look for what you get coleslaw in at the deli counter.
extremely tiny and exactly right. And there are a number of issues with this. So that's our focal point now. There's also a lot of tiny tanks that are marketed towards
Yeah.
them. And I'm talking like under 1 gallon tanks. And we believe that people want to give their fish the best life, right? Most people, they don't want to harm their pet fish. So we are really passionate about educating people and holding certain brands accountable for more harmful products and practices.
I think it's a really important because if somebody receives a fish in a small plastic container and they know it's only going to be in it for pick a number, 20 minutes till they get home. But it comes with instructions saying you must have an aquarium ready for this fish that allows them the freedom to forage or eat or hide or swim or play or whatever the things are that, as people who've learned a lot about the kind of fish that a betta is, that it needs, I can see maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. I obviously can't give you a giant aquarium to take home in your car. But if
Mhm.
they're selling you a tiny bowl like what people used to get way before your time. You're a beautiful young woman who wouldn't know, I don't think, about like amusement parks where people would have a gun or throw a ball and win a goldfish, and they would give it to you in a plastic bag. And the bowl you would put it in was much smaller than you would put three roses in. Looked like a little rose bowl, like a flower bowl. And the fish would invariably die in it because that was no environment even for a goldfish or for anything living thing. Is that the concern that they're being housed in a way that makes no sense at all? It should be a temporary shelter while you're cleaning their aquarium.
So the concern that we have is the way that they're sold at these pet chains in the tiny cups, because what's happening, these big box stores, they're selling maybe 50 to 60, even more fish at a time, more bettas at a time. And the employees don't have the time to do the level of maintenance, water changes that are required for such a low water volume. So what's happening, and I really want to stress this is a systemic, widespread problem. People are seeing dead betta fish in these stores. They're seeing
Ooh.
sick, neglected betta fish at these big box pet chains. And it's not a single store issue. It's a result of this system because fish produce ammonia, right? Food breaks down into ammonia, and ammonia is extremely toxic for fish. So they can be just sitting in ammonia for several days.
Oh my goodness.
There's no heater. Bettas are tropical fish. No filtration. There's no enrichment or place to hide. So these cups are creating a state of very like chronic stress and unstable conditions. And then
And
it sets
toxic.
people,
But wait a minute,
pardon?
you're saying and it's toxic to them. They're in a
It's
toxic
toxic.
environment. I misunderstood. I thought you meant that they transferred them into this little deli coleslaw container, if you will, just when the person purchased them to remove them from the store. You're saying they're kept in that little plastic cup in the store?
Yes. They are, if you
Wow.
walk into one of these big box pet chains, you will see a shelf of 50, 60 bettas in tiny plastic cups.
Oh.
And they'll make the argument that this is a short-term situation, but what's happening is they're dying and they're getting sick at these stores because it's very difficult to maintain level of care required for such a low water volume. So the problem is how they're sold at these big box
I see.
stores.
So what have you guys done as a group to, I don't know, picket, lobby, call up the president or whomever, or the marketing person or the whoever the person is and say, wait, you got to stop. You must have done that. You're of that generation that you have social media and you also have telephones. You have ways to reach people.
Yeah, we have done that. We are constantly documenting and showcasing neglect at these stores. We're really trying to make a case that this is a widespread problem. I leave Google reviews each time I go to one of these stores. I take photos, I document it, I leave a Google
Wow.
review.
Wow.
Um, and we really like to highlight the problem, but also highlight that there are solutions. There are other ways that stores can sell Betta fish, right? We're building a map of non-cup retailers. So these are stores that keep them in filtered setups. Sometimes they're like nano tanks, like 1 gallon, 2 gallon
Right.
tanks, individual tanks. Or there's even just a rack system, which is a bit more holding space and it has filtration, heating. So we're building a map where people can, if they want to buy a Betta fish, they can
Nice.
support stores with higher standards.
Nice.
And I also would want to say that these cups are not even a thing in certain countries, right? So in the United States, it's very normalized, and we are just used to seeing bettas sold this way. And I think we might tend to think, okay, that's just how it has to be done. But in Germany, there's a law that they have to be sold in 10 liters or 2.6 gallon
Wow.
individual tanks. And so we are really passionate about raising like the baseline standard for them and showing that this it doesn't have to be this way.
Good for you. Now, why you? Why did this capture your imagination? You personally.
Yeah, like a lot of people, I when I was very young, I had a betta in a small bowl
Why see?
and I adored him. I really adored him and
Really?
I loved him so much. I would never have wanted to harm him, but he was in a small, unfiltered bowl. And then I learned, I became educated and did more research. And then it sat with me knowing that there are a lot of people who care and they would do better if they knew better.
Yes.
And so then, about 4 years ago, I got another betta fish. And as I was doing research, I just found that there are still a lot of products that are very misleading to people. There are a lot of practices that really jeopardize their welfare. So I started it more as a personal project. And then
Right.
we formalized into a nonprofit just over 1 year ago.
Good for you. That's a lot of work. That takes time and energy and money. And it's very touching when you say how much you loved your betta fish when you were a young girl. Dr. Doug Mader, who's my co-host on the show, he really loved his fishes. He had tanks of them and loved them. And for a long time, when he was in college and then in medical school, in veterinary school, they were his friends who he came home to. And
Mhm.
for people who don't develop that relationship with their fish or fishes, it might be hard to understand, but when you take the time to see them as individuals and imagine their individual life, then you can feel their pain. I think people understand the way that puppies and kittens were kept in pet stores was horrible and made them get sick and die. And the few places that still sell puppies and kittens in a pet store in a plexiglass box, those animals get sick and die. And some of them get medicated behind the scenes in the back of the store, but it's not a healthy way to keep them. And people understand it about puppies and kittens, but a betta fish, they don't understand it. You said it so well. It's normalized. Well, isn't that just how fish are sold? So let me ask you, are other fish sold that way? And do you feel the same? If they are, do you feel the same way about other kinds of fish?
Yeah, fish welfare is we're really lagging behind, right, as a society in terms of our considerations of fish welfare.
Yes.
So bettas are the ones, they get it pretty rough because they're aggressive fish. They can't be kept in a bigger tank together. When you walk into a big box pet store, the goldfish are crammed into a very overcrowded tank. Ammonia is very concentrated. And I also wanted to know, just as we were talking, I have seen fish given out as prizes even still. So I'm
Oh,
in
you
Berkeley.
have.
I'm in Berkeley where it's actually illegal. There's a law making it illegal, but all of the surrounding cities that I've been to, their county fairs, I've seen it happening. And so we're not treating fish welfare with much urgency, right? As we would. We're not extending the same considerations as we would for other animals and cats and dogs.
I'm really because it's not only disrespectful, it's ruinous because if somebody gets a fish in a small plastic bag as if it was a pickle at the deli, not even a whole container of coleslaw, you don't have any regard for it. First of all, you really didn't come to the county fair hoping to become a fish guardian. And now what
Exactly.
do? You might just leave it in whatever container until it dies and you flush it and you go, I guess that's what happens to fish. They die and you flush them, as
Yes,
opposed to showing them some respect and concern and say, no, thank you, I didn't come here for a fish. I'll take the stuffed teddy bear as my prize,
exactly.
right?
Right, exactly. You're not invested in their well-being if you're not attending the fair to get a fish. And we are all about, so we're not anti-fish keeping, we're just
Oh,
pro-welfare. So
yeah,
we're all about responsible pet ownership. That's what it comes down to.
it does.
So if you're going to have a fish as a pet, it's not an object, it's not a decoration, it's a living creature, and you treat it with respect, just like you would with any other pet.
And that interest you had and the affection you felt as a young girl is something anyone can feel towards a fish. You just have to sit with them, be with them, imagine their life, give them more of a life, as much of a life as you can within the constraints of where they live. My understanding was that it's only the male betta fish who will fight each other to the death. And I hate to imagine there are people who would buy two male betta fish in order to have them fight like people have roosters fight or dogs fight. My guess is people do it because people are basically, we have some very crude, rough undercurrent to what we think is fun or what we think is entertainment. But isn't
Mhm.
it true that you can have a harem of female bettas, that many females can live in a tank together? So they could, but then you have to have the problem of sexing a betta. Is that hard to do, knowing what sex they are?
No, because the males, like a lot of species, males are a lot more vibrant. They have the longer fins.
Uh,
Those are the ones that are more popular because of that, because they're very beautiful. And yes, you can keep female sororities, but I would not advise that for beginners. And that's actually
oh,
something that's even fairly controversial in fish keeping because things can still go wrong. Females are aggressive as well, not as
ah,
aggressive. They establish hierarchies and dominance, and I would say be very experienced. Monitor your sorority, a lot of plants and hiding spots so that
oh,
they can
right.
retreat, right? And have a contingency plan if things go wrong.
And I would guess that crowding would, like with any living creature, whether it's human or four-legged or no legs at all, that crowding would create a lot of tension and up the possibility of aggression and attacking each other. You can't
Exactly.
put an unlimited number. There has to be the space for them to have some space of their own.
Exactly. Exactly. And with bettas, the more space, honestly, the better. They will use up all of the space that you give them.
Really? Even
Yeah.
a single male will.
Yeah. And there have been studies I wanted to bring up to you. There have been two studies that came out in 2024, and they are about how environment affect betta fish behavior. So there was one called Life in a Fishbowl, and that one showed that betta fish showed a lot less abnormal behavior in 1.5 gallon enriched tanks or greater. So
Right?
the retailers, they suggest, I'm sorry, the researchers suggest that retailers sell them in 1.5 gallon enriched tanks or greater. And the other study, Life in a Fishbowl, it shows that the betta fish have unreduced rates of swimming, so they can show their full expression of swimming behavior in 10 liters, or so 2.6 gallon enriched tanks or greater. So those are just kind of new studies that have come out. There are not that many, but it's very encouraging as an advocate to be able to actually
Yes, of
point to
course.
some studies that show that a fish do respond to in their environment and their behavior is impacted by them. And both of those studies basically say that keeping them in barren tiny bowls and cups is hindering their behavior and causing significant stress.
Well, yeah, now all that we've talked about, that's really logical. But as you said, having a study gives some teeth to your argument, which is what people want, facts, even though the logic is there. I'm very much looking forward to having Dr. Doug Mader listen to and watch our conversation and hope that he can be help further your advocacy since he is a passionate fish lover and fish keeper, and he will really admire your young generation for stepping up on behalf of fish. I certainly do. I think it's wonderful. The more we all know, the better we can be.
Mhm.
And I hope that many people listening will become a Betta owner, but a better Betta owner. Because
Yeah,
Betta World
exactly.
for Bettas, or come check out Betta World for Bettas, Betta World for Bettas, and join Ariel and her cohorts who know this matters. And of course, good for bettas will be good for all fish because the more everybody
Mhm.
knows, the more they'll say, wait a minute, maybe we should be thinking differently in general. So
Yes,
thank you.
exactly.
Thank you for
Thank
what you're
you.
doing. You're reaching a lot of people in ways you may not have realized, and I admire you for it. Keep on being
Thank you
on.
so much.
Take
I'm
care.
so
It was lovely
grateful.
to meet you. So
Thank you.
lovely.
You as well.
Keep working.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
You too.